establish a presence when Suzuki and Hyundai and Mahindra are already established? It's very hard for them to get even 1% share. So these companies, somewhere there is a CEO who takes a long-term view and says, you know what, how can we be global if we are not a leader in China, we're not a leader in India, we're not a leader in Indonesia, these large countries. So no matter how long it takes, we're going to be number 1 or 2 out there, okay? And from that, everything follows. One of the heroes in my book is McDonald's. And why I like McDonald's is, first of all, everybody identifies with McDonald's, right? It's not like an engine or a tractor where some people get it, some people don't, or IT where even fewer get it. McDonald's, I said, here's this company which is the largest reseller of beef in the world. And they come to a country like ours, which is still very vegetarian. The cow is sacred, and $1 is a lot of money. And they make one of the fastest growing chains in the country. So if McDonald's can do it, why can't these other guys do it? But McDonald's is this interesting story. They come to India in '96 with 2 restaurants, one in Mumbai, one in Bangalore, and both are a failure. Okay? Because they don't have, it's the global menu, high prices, so the expats will eat it, but not much else. But what they do is they don't give up. Over the next 8-9 years, they start finding the formula for success. They start localizing the menu with all the things that we know about, Mikalu Tikki and so forth. They find that Indian potatoes don't make good fries. They fall apart when you try to fry it, as some of you would have seen. So they fly an agronomist from Idaho and they start trying to grow different varieties that will grow in Indian soil, and finally they figure it out. Now they insist on putting lettuce in their whatever thing. Lettuce doesn't grow well when it's 39 degrees, okay? And it's not something that is native to our diet, so they have to grow lettuce and create the cold chain to get lettuce from the farm to these restaurants. How do you make money when the median price of anything, how much is a McDonald's Happy Meal item? 30 rupees, 25 rupees? Huh? How do you make money at 25 rupees? So they do a whole amount, cost, value engineering, which I write about in the thing. It takes them 8 years. In this 8 years, they've invested $100 million, no return. Finally, they succeed, and the next 400 restaurants happen very quickly. But how many companies have the appetite, the patience, the commitment to say, I'll wait 8-9 years, invest $100 million, no return, don't even know if it'll ever return. Meanwhile, the board is asking, hey, why are you wasting money? That is commitment, okay? And that's the fundamental thing that is different between winners and losers. Number 2, don't be arrogant. Don't expect that the market will change to fit my product. You have to adapt your product to fit the market. Good example of this. How many of you carry an iPhone? Not many. Good reason for that, right? How many of you would like to have an iPhone? Many more, okay? Why does Apple do so miserably in India? Okay? And I was trying to get an interview with the CEO of Apple, or anybody in Apple. They didn't even reply to my email. But luckily the stock market hammered them 2 years ago, so he had to explain why they do so badly in India. He says, listen, India is not so important for us. Okay? This is 2 years ago. He says, distribution system in India is very difficult, very inefficient, multi-tier. There aren't all these nice electronic retail shops like Best Buy, so we have to create our own, and that's difficult and expensive. Most of all, there aren't enough rich Indians. Okay? And those rich Indians anyway have an iPhone because they buy it in Dubai, Singapore, or New York, or wherever. So one day India is going to be important, but it's not priority right now. Obviously, companies like Samsung and Micromax were not waiting for the market to get richer. They developed smartphones at different price points, invested in the brand, built their own distribution. And then, sadly for Apple, the market takes off. India has become the second largest smartphone market in the world. And in that, Samsung has 43%, I think Micromax has something approaching 20%, and Apple has 3%. Okay? So this is the point when you say, hey, let the market catch up with my business model versus I'll change my business model to suit the market. Very different example from Microsoft. When I joined Microsoft, the number one issue, there was no Google in those days, okay? It was a pre-Google era. And so the number one issue for Microsoft was software piracy, which is people like using Windows on Office, they don't like paying for it. And till 2004, Bill Gates said, no problem, let them get used to it, one day we'll go and collect. Okay? In 2005, Bill retires, and the next guy says, this is a pretty good time to collect. But particularly China and India, we got our instructions. You need to start doing software, what is it called? Asset management. You need to talk about intellectual property, and so on and so forth. Licensing. All our customers were upset, very upset. And then I went to the IT minister, a new man called Dayanidhi Maran. In 2005, he had just become IT minister. I said, what is this largest IT country? Government is not doing anything to protect IP and prevent all this piracy. So he spoke to me in Tamil. He says, listen, you look like a nice guy, but a bit of a stupid guy. So let me give you a little bit of advice. He says, in India, copyright means the right to copy. So he says, you better tell your bosses in Seattle that it's not going to change very quickly. You'll be gone from the company. The company itself may be gone before Indians change their value system. So maybe you should work on your pricing and your business model. First of all, we didn't like the answer, but then after a little while we realized it's the truth. It's a sort of crudely put, but it's the truth. So we started working on the business model, and the company over the next few years really figured it out. I'll give you this example. No Microsoft people here, right? No, otherwise I was going to ask a question. What is the price of Office? Because nobody will be able to tell you the price of Office. And the reason is very simple. It depends on who you are. Okay? So if you're a big company, right, like Infosys, the price is $350, $360. Okay? If you're a mid-sized company like Quick Heal, okay, it might be $65 to $100 depending on sort of which version it is. If it is a student, okay, it's $50. If it is a government, depending on what is the per capita income, it might be $10. Okay? If it is an NGO, it is free. If it is a school, it's $2.50 per year. So roughly the same bits. Okay? The company is charging anywhere from $0 to $400. Okay? Now this is not easy to implement. Okay, so there's a lot of clever marketing and some technology in implement, but it was a fantastic success. The Microsoft Office business in India is well north of $500 million, and customers are happy because each is now paying just a reasonable amount, relative to what they can afford. Now, which other industry has the same problem? The pharma industry. They spend $1 billion on inventing a new drug and going through clinical trials and coming to market. So they want to charge a lot of money for this new thing. And if you're in a rich country and the insurance provider is paying for it, it's okay. But if you're living in India where most people make less than 120 rupees a year and there's no government health care, you can't say, no, sorry, tough luck here, die. Go die. It's a political impossibility. So which is why government of India says we reserve the right to do compulsory licensing of life-saving drugs, we encourage a generics industry, etc. And what do companies like Novartis do? They go and sue the government. Do you think the strategy will ever work? Will it ever work in any emerging market? It'll never work because politically you can't say only rich people will have access to these things. So they need to figure out how to implement what I call differential pricing, which is not easy. I'm not saying it's a quick answer, but the longer you are in denial of this problem and expect the country will adapt your model, the bigger the issue, the hole you're digging for yourself. That's a long way of giving number two, or explaining number two. This getting talent right is the third most critical thing. See, it takes a very special kind of breed of people to survive and prosper in India. Many of you represent that because we grew up here. So it's nothing special. But if you're a global company coming into these markets, this is a ferociously difficult place, okay? And so you need to think very, very carefully about the kind of leader you put out here, okay? Not every expat will survive. if you depend too much on expats, you get into this revolving door. Every 3 years they're going back and some new person is coming in, they're learning.